سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today we're here at ZIA-UL-UMMAH Center with a very good friend of mine to discuss the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has, with the virus itself, has brought many other issues and problems. Generally, we are concerned about people's health, and obviously throughout our Friday congregations we've spoken with a lot of importance in regards to the social distancing and all the guidelines that have been given to us by the government. A few months ago, when this first began and when the United Kingdom first came into its first national lockdown, we did it in a short program, if you like, with Dr Imran Hussain, and today is the second part to that, and this is the impact of COVID-19 on our community, in particular in regards to the mental health issues. So inshallah I will speak to Dr Imran Hussain, who's very kindly taken time out of his extremely busy schedule, and I'm well aware of that. So we thank you very much. He was a general a GP, if I could say it like that, GP, who's been working within the community for a very long time, helping people. One of the first questions is, as a GP, what do you feel the outcome of COVID-19 and the kind of patients that you've had, or the kind of people that you've come across in regards to the mental health issues that is brought along with that?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So first of all, Imam Saab, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For inviting me. I'm here with Imam Shahid Tamiz from ZIA-UL-UMMAH Center. It's a pleasure. I think the topic that you've touched upon is very, very important. And I think it's important that we launch into it straight away, because a lot of people will hopefully benefit from this topic. So COVID-19, first of all, the good news is that inshallah we'll be starting to see the end of this pandemic now with the new vaccine that has come out. This program is not about the new vaccine, but at least we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So Allah, I think from an Islamic point of view, Allah says that there is no disease that He has created for which there isn't a cure. So alhamdulillah, I think we're on the right track. COVID-19 has had a tremendous impact, a great impact on people in all sorts of ways, financially, economically, mentally, and all of these are interlinked. And because they're all interlinked, it is therefore important to touch upon all of these. And we're seeing these in the patients on a day-to-day basis that we see. It is not sort of magical science. It's fairly straightforward that when a pandemic of this proportion arises and social distancing happens and businesses are closing down, people's jobs will be at risk. There has been an increase in unemployment. People have lost jobs. Their futures are uncertain. Companies and businesses' futures are uncertain as well. There has been the issue of loneliness and social isolation. So where you have a family and you have that interaction and support mechanism, that has been taken away from people, and that in itself breeds its own sort of problems. We're starting to see that there has been an increase in domestic violence in households, because partners are living with each other, and the stresses and the strains of unemployment, the stresses and strains of uncertainty are taking root in the dynamics of their relationship and affecting that. And we're starting to see an increase in, and we're talking about the general population here, there's been an increase in uptake of alcohol and addictive type of behaviors and substance abuse. And there's also been an increase in child abuse cases that we are seeing as well. And all of this has been the impact of COVID-19 and the measures that have come as a result of it, which have been necessary in order to prevent the spread of the virus. With relation to our own community, there has been an impact on mental health. I think when we spoke a few weeks ago, we spoke about mental health, and I think you said something very important. You said that our community's understanding of mental health is slightly different to perhaps what mental health means. Mental health encompasses all things in relation to your emotions, your anxieties, and your thoughts and how you feel. It is not simply just schizophrenia or that feeling of going mad or having paranoia or seeing or hearing things, but it also encompasses things like anxiety, low mood, depression, and all the spectrum of disorders in between that. So I wouldn't be wrong in saying that at some point in anyone's life they've had some form of mild depression or moderate depression where they felt low in mood and they felt that they can't really deal with their emotions on a day-to-day basis. It may not necessarily be depression. So it's a very common thing. It's nothing to be stigmatized or to hide under the table. So mental health has impacted our community, especially with COVID-19. A lot of it has been down to unemployment. Unemployment in itself breeds a sense of failure, the fact that you're not able to provide for your family or your children, or the fact that you in some way are inadequate. Unemployment gives you a feeling of inadequacy, a loss of sense of security, and that in itself then can take a toll on your mental health. So we're starting to see increased levels of stress, increased levels of anxiety and depression. And that's something that is not just confined to the Muslim community, but to the general population at large as well. We can elaborate on what the symptoms and signs are of depression and anxiety, but essentially that's the toll that it's taken.
Thank you. One of the issues that we've had as a masjid or as a mosque is in the midst of the lockdown and this the virus itself, the pandemic. I've been obviously been approached as an imam by our members of our congregation and the members of our community. And one of the things that they are complaining about is obviously they've lost jobs. Being unemployed is one issue, but having a job where you're putting bread and butter on the table, and then all of a sudden losing that blessing, and then, as you said, feeling that insecurity, having those emotions of failure. So some of the people that have got back to me and rang me and approached me, they've made complaints and they're saying that, look, this could be a taweez of some sort, or not taweez but black magic. They relate it to that, and we've encouraged them as a masjid. Is one of the things that we say to them is you need to have tawakkul or reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we must acknowledge that yes, there is a virus, and because of this virus what's happened is the result is that you've lost a job. So one of the things that we say to them is pray your salah, recite the Quran, and what this does is it takes those negative emotions or that feeling of insecurity or sadness or unhappiness, it helps that to take it away. The other thing that I said, Dr. Saab, is when you mentioned loneliness or the word that you used, social isolation. I said masjid is a perfect place to come to because there is a congregation. There are people here. There are people from different walks of life with different experiences, and by coming to the masjid you can always sit here, you can spend time connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and at the same time it gives you the chance to speak to people from the members of the community, and we can always get help there's always somebody who knows somebody, or who knows a certain
Yes.
place or people who can basically then direct them towards going back to work. And me as an imam, I have people that can obviously help people get back into employment, and we're always happy to help in any way. But one of the things that they keep on saying is, or some people at least say that, that they've been affected with black magic. And what we say to them is, black magic is a 1 in a million case. We're not saying that that's not true. It does happen, but it's not the most likely case that you'll be facing. How can we? My question to you is, when we have people who believe that they are being affected with black magic, what we say is, pray your salah, continue with your salah, keep on coming to the masjid, recite your Quran. But from the medical point of view, how can we help them to release that anxiety or those feelings? What could you possibly advise?
Okay, so that's a very important question that you've asked. I think, just take one step back. So when someone is employed, they have a role, they have an identity.
Absolutely.
They have a purpose.
Yes.
And they are then seeing the fruits of their purpose. They're earning their money, they're supporting their family, their children are eating well, wearing nice clothes, and they've got a car that they can drive around in. They have a sense of a place in society. And when that is taken away from a person, then all of that is lost. That sense of identity, that sense of purpose is gone. And then the question is, how does the brain or the mind react to that? And one aspect of it is to think rationally and say, well, why did this happen? What was the reason for it happening? And a lot of things can happen in someone's life which are beyond their control, and other people are affected as well. And there are some things that can happen in your life which are in your control. And so if you start to think along the lines, and this is one of the things that happens in people who have cognitive bias, which is one of the things we could talk about in cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's one of the things that would be very beneficial for the viewers, and
Sure.
we can cover another session on that. But one of the things is the fact that we call it cognitive distortion. So it's an inaccurate thought that reinforces an emotion that then causes a behavior, right? So so you're blaming others, and as a result, then you haven't taken responsibility, or you haven't recognized that there are circumstances under which this has happened. And when that starts to happen, then you start to think, well, could this be black magic? Could this be someone doing something else? It's like the thought that, I keep trying but nothing is going right. I keep doing things but I keep failing. And then your emotion is anger, resentment, trying to find someone to blame for it. And then your behavior would be, and then that could reinforce another thought that maybe this is black magic, maybe someone is wanting to do bad to me, someone has, caused this to happen, and trying to find that agent, coming to you then and saying, well, can you give me a taweez? And that's that behavior aspect of it. Or some people just remain angry and resentful, and that causes them then not to talk to their partner, to not to be angry with their children, to socially isolate from people. So we get this concept of thought, which then gives rise to an emotion, which then gives rise to behavior. And that is what essentially cognitive behavioral therapy is. So when someone is unemployed, they will start to think that, and maybe blame others for it, and that causes them to lead to ask for a taweez, because they think there is an external
Absolutely.
And that is an irrational thought, rather than the rational thought, which is that there is a set of circumstances that have caused this. And I think the first step is to realize that, to identify it. And some people need a lot of help in identifying that. They can't make that bridge. Because they're at the point where they have so many feelings, so many emotions, that it just doesn't make, they need someone to sit down with and separate these emotions and complex thoughts, and then say, right, okay, this is why I'm feeling like this, let's take it one step at a time. I think in terms of recognizing depression and anxiety, that's very important, and there are signs and symptoms for that. We can cover that in a short while. But I think one of the things, and our most important things, is to recognize what you can do if you do lose your job and be unemployed. And I've been in that shoe, myself, so I can relate to it. It's not that, when you get to my age, you've seen lots of things in life. So some of the things you could possibly do is reflect and not dwell on why you've lost a job. So this is an opportunity to take a break and say, okay, well, what does reflection mean? So you could ask yourself, well, what was I doing before? What was my job? Why was I doing that job? What was I doing well in that job? What skills did I have that made me do that job well? Why did I lose it? Was it an industry that was easily, expendable? Okay, how can I now adapt to the change that is required of me? How can I retrain myself? What other skills can I learn? What other challenges can I overcome? And what you're doing here is you're actually not dwelling on why you've lost your job, but you're questioning. And you're questioning in a way that allows you to think about how to make that change. And that change is geared to the new circumstances that have happened in everyone's lives. In some people's lives, it has much more of an impact. In other people's lives, it has made a minimal impact. In people who are millionaires, it's made them even richer. But the point is that it's affected everyone. So the question you need to ask yourself is, how has it impacted me? What was I doing before? Why was I doing it? What was I doing well? How can I adapt now to the new change? What do I need to do? What kind of skills and things do I need to do to help me with that? And then, of course, the most difficult thing, and I appreciate the most difficult thing, is trying to go out and do it, because that's where you then have to start getting the help, and that's where motivation comes into it as well, and that's where people like yourselves, other community organizations, charities, colleges, training centers, these people can come in. And then it's the case of making a change. Very small or a big, but whatever the change is. So you could start doing some more exercise. Yeah, you could start going for a walk. You could talk to people over Zoom. You could call friends that you've never spoken to. You could start a new cooking course. You need to start exercising the mind, and these don't take that much of an effort. But in some people, I realize it may take a lot of an effort, because in depression, it's very difficult to do these kind of things. And then setting yourself a routine, even though you don't have to set yourself a routine, but setting yourself a routine and doing those things. I think if you just take these small steps, then you can actually start to turn things around and look upon things as they actually are. Going back to depression and anxiety, I mean, some of the key elements, and a lot of people, I've noticed, a lot of patients tend not to recognize it. So they usually come to me and they say, we're tired, we've got a headache, or we have
we're fatigued,
yeah, or we're tired, or we've lost our appetite. These are what we call somatic symptoms of depression. So lack of sleep, disturbed sleep, sleeping too much, tingling sensation, aches and pains, headaches, loss of appetite. These are all the physical symptoms of depression. But the core symptom of depression, they are your mental health symptoms. So it's persistent low mood, lasting for more than 2 weeks. So persistent low mood for lasting for more than 2 weeks. Anhedonia. So not wanting to do the things you usually enjoy doing. So not wanting to go and see your friends, or watch a film, or go and spend time with your family.
Dr. Saab, can I, if you don't mind, is that mild depression or is that severe? What you've just said now, not wanting to do things, like not wanting to see your friends. Sorry to stop you and interfere, but is that a form of depression as well?
Okay, so what I'm talking about are the essential core symptoms of depression. If these core symptoms are present, then you have, and they're present for more than 2 weeks, then that's our definition of depression.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So some people might have one or more of these symptoms for a short while, then they're okay, and then some of us have it again.
Sure.
But the essential definition is if you have this for 2 weeks or more, not wanting to do anything, no motivation to get up and do anything,
Yeah.
and it's a horrible situation to be in.
Yes.
And only the person who's going through it understands and realizes it. And then the third thing is a feeling of hopelessness. You know, you're just hopeless. You feel nothing is ever going to go right, and there is no hope for things ever getting any better. And that is a pretty bad symptom of depression, and that's very dire. And when people have that, then it's very hard for them to see any light in the future.
Yeah.
And that leads on to the fourth symptom, which is pessimism for the future.
Yes.
They're very pessimistic for the future. They don't think that's going to get any better.
يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك